Stuck in meditation? Have you checked your temperament? Meditation is not about forcing silence. You sit down, close your eyes, and try to meditate. You focus on your breath, aiming for that peaceful, silent state you've read about. But instead of calm, you get a flood of thoughts, worries about work, mental to-do lists, random memories, and snippets of songs. The harder you try to push them away, the louder they become. Soon, frustration sets in, followed by a familiar sense of guilt or failure. You think, I'm just not cut out for this. My mind is too busy. This experience is incredibly common, but it's based on a fundamental misunderstanding of what meditation is. If you've struggled to force your mind into silence, you haven't failed at meditation, you've simply been given the wrong instructions for your type of mind. The purpose of practice. The first thing that practitioners should understand is the purpose of their practice. The true purpose of mental training in Buddhism is very simple and very direct. It is not for success, not for wealth, not even for comfort. It is for one thing only, the end of suffering. But when people hear this, some immediately doubt it. They say, is that even possible? How can suffering ever end? Isn't suffering just a normal part of life? And they're right, in one sense. Life will always contain pain. Disappointment will still happen. We won't always get what we want. Loss, change, and uncertainty are part of being human. Buddhism does not deny this. So when we say end suffering, it doesn't mean creating a perfect life where nothing goes wrong. That's impossible. Instead, it means something much deeper. It means learning how to train the mind so that it no longer suffers because of what happens. Situations still arise, but the heart is no longer shaken. Problems still come, but the mind doesn't collapse. We live in the same world, working, competing, struggling like everyone else, yet inside there is freedom. Freedom from greed, freedom from anger, freedom from delusion, freedom from being dragged around by every emotion that appears. This is what ending suffering really means. Not controlling the world, but understanding the mind. Not escaping life, but no longer being enslaved by it. When the mind sees clearly, it stops fighting reality. And in that moment, even in the middle of chaos, there is peace. Liberation from suffering is attained through wisdom, and wisdom arises from the practice of insight meditation. But at the same time, we have to also practice calmness meditation. That is the path of practice. At the outset, let us speak about the basic understanding of mental training in the Buddhist path. The training and development of the mind is divided into two types. Samatha, or calmness meditation. This is the practice of calming the mind to build mental strength and stability. It's what most people think of when they hear the word meditation, the pursuit of a quiet, tranquil mind. Vipassanā, or insight meditation, is the practice of developing wisdom and clarity to see things as they truly are. Its goal isn't calm for calm's sake, but sharp, penetrating insight into the nature of reality. We must cultivate both forms of mental training together so that the mind gains strength and sharpness in cutting through defilements. The common mistake. The most common mistake is assuming that everyone must begin with samatha or do meditation for calmness first. For people with naturally busy, analytical, and restless minds, this is a recipe for suffering. Forcing a restless mind to become still is like trying to flatten a stormy ocean with your hands. When we begin practice, we must first reflect honestly on our own temperament. Some people begin with samatha and later develop vipassana. Others must begin with vipassana and later samatha become more stable. There is no single starting point for everyone. Knowing your temperament. So what should we start with? How do we know which approach is right for us? We look at our own temperament. First, those who find calmness easily. These people can become calm quite easily. When the mind finds an object it likes, it naturally settles down. For them, it's best to begin with Samatha, to establish calm and mental strength, and later develop Vipassanā. Second, those prone to frequent wandering thoughts. Their minds are easily distracted. They think a lot, hold many opinions, and enjoy expressing their views, often believing they are right. They are hungry for information, both good and bad, and tend to be overly involved with other people and the world around them. Modern society encourages this kind of mind. As a result, the mind becomes restless and agitated. Even after practicing for a long time, calm doesn't arise, or it arises only for a short while. These practitioners begin to doubt themselves. They wonder why they cannot develop calm. They experience restlessness, sometimes dullness, and then try to force the mind to become calm. But forcing calm goes against one's natural temperament. When we practice in the wrong way for our nature, progress is very difficult. Some people feel discouraged and think maybe I can't go on. Maybe the Buddha's path isn't for me. If this sounds familiar, it's time to reflect again. Ask yourself whether you may be practicing in a way that doesn't suit your temperament. If calm practice doesn't work yet, start with Vipassanā instead. Develop awareness and understanding of the mind as it is. When Vipassanā is practiced correctly, calm will follow naturally, and Samatha will gradually become stable on its own. Practice for those who can easily develop calm, or Samatha-led practice. For people who can develop calm easily, the path begins with Samatha. We start by cultivating calmness of mind. But for calm to arise naturally, we need to practice in a way the mind enjoys. There must first be a sense of ease and happiness before the mind can truly settle into calm. This is why choosing the right form of practice for yourself is important. Because people differ so much, the teachers have laid out 40 Samatha meditation objects. In the Buddhist tradition, practitioners are described according to 6 temperaments. Each temperament should choose a meditation object that suits it, one that allows calm to arise easily. Lustful temperament practices contemplation of unattractiveness, or asubha. Hateful temperament practices loving kindness, or metta. Ignorant temperament practices mindfulness breathing, or anapanasati. Discursive temperament practices mindfulness breathing, or anapanasati. Devout temperament practices anusati 10. Intellectual temperament practices mindfulness breathing, or anapanasati. We begin by practicing samatha to establish calm. When calm is well developed and we become skilled in jhana, or deep concentration, we then continue along the path of the 4 foundations of mindfulness: body, feelings, the mind, and Dhamma phenomena. At the beginning, our spiritual faculties may still be weak. Faith, effort, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom may not yet be strong. In that case, we begin by contemplating the body, allowing the body to reveal its true nature, the 3 characteristics: impermanence, suffering, and not self. When we observe the body, we see that it is nothing more than the 4 elements: earth, water, fire, and air. When we touch the body and it feels soft, we know the earth element is weak. When it feels firm or hard, the earth element is strong. If the hands feel cool, the fire element is weak. When we sense movement within the body, the air element is active. When the body feels tense and still, the air element is functioning less. The air element expresses itself as movement or stillness. The water element is what holds particles together. When the water element weakens, the body breaks apart and dissolves. Some practitioners contemplate the body as a corpse, decomposing, decaying, and gradually dissolving back to its elements. Simply observe the body, and the body will reveal the truth by itself. You will see that the body is impermanent. You will see that the body is suffering. You will see that the body is not self. Eventually, the mind becomes convinced that the body is not a reliable refuge, not something that can truly be taken as me or mine. The body is clearly seen as not self. Sometimes, in deep concentration, the body seems to disappear altogether. When concentration loosens, awareness returns, first to the mind and then spreading out to include the body again. At that moment, it becomes very clear that body and mind are two separate things. Form is one part, mind is another. The body is not the mind. The body is not self. Body and mind are not the same. This clear separation of form and mind is the beginning of true wisdom. From here on, the practitioner continues with Vipassanā, directly seeing the true nature of the mind itself.
Practice for those with restless minds, or Vipassana-led practice. For people whose minds are restless, the practice should begin with Vipassana by observing the mind itself. Start by knowing in the moment. When greed arises, you simply note, greed is present. When it fades, you note, greed is not present. The same applies to anger, distraction, sadness, or any other feeling. You are not judging it or trying to get rid of it. You are becoming a neutral witness to your own mind. Why is this knowing so important? Because through knowing, the mind begins to learn for itself. Sometimes there is greed. Sometimes there is no greed. Sometimes there is anger. Sometimes there is no anger. The mind directly sees impermanence. Greed is just a mental event, arising for a moment and disappearing when it is known. Even the knowing itself arises and passes away. This is Vipassana in its pure form. For people in this group, the primary object for Vipassana is the mind. The mind clearly shows its nature, arising and passing away again and again. At one moment, the mind is good. At another moment, it is unwholesome. Sometimes the mind is happy. Sometimes it is suffering. Sometimes it is wholesome. Sometimes it is unwholesome. Change is obvious. The mind itself displays the three characteristics very clearly. By observing the mind, we see that the mind is not self. And when this is seen clearly, the body is also seen as not self. So if you evaluate yourself and find that no matter how much you try to calm the mind, it never truly settles. You've tried many methods, mantras, watching the breath, different techniques, and still the mind remains restless. There is no need to be discouraged. Once you see that this is your nature, practice exactly as the Buddha taught. When greed is present, know it. When greed is absent, know it. When the mind is restless, know it. When the mind is dull or discouraged, know it. Dullness often appears when we feel disappointed or discouraged. Restlessness often appears when the mind runs through news, information, and endless stories. The mindfulness we cultivate allows us to recognize, I am restless now. At that point, we do not need to know what we are restless about. Just knowing that the mind is restless is enough. If we start thinking about what the restlessness was about, the mind becomes restless all over again. For this type of person, the mind becomes restless easily and frequently. So when you know simply, know plainly. Just know without trying to fix anything. Greed arises, know it. That's all. Why is it important to just know and not try to fix? Because when we simply know, the mental state reveals its true nature. If we try to fix it and it disappears, we become proud. I'm good at practice. If it doesn't disappear, we feel discouraged. I'm not good at this. That is already the wrong path. The moment we try to correct or manipulate, we fall out of Vipassana and slip back into Samatha. For example, you see an attractive person and liking arises. If you think, this liking is bad, I shouldn't have it, and then force the mind to imagine the person as a corpse, if it works, you feel proud of yourself. If it doesn't work, you feel frustrated, or you keep searching for another method, or you get lost in liking even more. This is no longer Vipassana. Samatha is about correcting the mind, making an unwholesome mind wholesome, making an unsettled mind calm. There is effort, adjustment, and control. Vipassana is different. Vipassana means clear knowing. Something arises, it is known, and it reveals the truth by itself. That truth is impermanence, suffering, and non-self, the three characteristics. To truly see the three characteristics, we must observe without interfering. Mental states already change on their own. They already cease on their own. No one can control them. There is nothing to fix.
If you're unsure whether you are someone who becomes calm easily or someone who is restless, it's fine to begin with Samatha first. Choose a practice the mind naturally likes. For example, watching the breath. If you are someone who becomes calm easily, you develop calm as fully as you can. But if calm does not arise, then right at that point, observe how the mind is working. A common mistake happens when we set our intention only on becoming calm. Once we decide, I must be calm, then when the mind wanders, we see that wandering as an enemy. We think, this is wrong, don't go there, and we rush to pull the mind back. That's where the mistake begins. Where do the mistakes occur? First, the mistake starts with the wrong intention. If we intend only to make the mind calm, that intention is already incorrect. When the mind wanders, it simply means the mind is not calm, which conflicts with our intention, so we judge the wandering as something bad. Second, the moment we judge the wandering as bad, that is already another mistake. Third, we immediately try to fix it by forcefully pulling the mind back. Fourth, once the mind is back, we then try to control it, telling it, stay right here, don't move, be still, don't wander again. It's like ordering the mind around. The mistake begins with wrong intention. Then we see a mental state as something that should not have happened. Then we interfere, instead of simply observing. And when the mind comes back, we observe it incorrectly again, not in a relaxed way, but with tension and dissatisfaction. A tense, unhappy mind like this is not suitable for developing calm meditation. If we aim only for calm, we have already gone off track. Calm is not the final goal. It is only a midpoint, a passage along the way. What we truly seek is Vipassanā wisdom, clear understanding and direct seeing. Whatever arises and passes away is not self. This is the truth we want to see. When we practice Samatha, if the mind becomes calm, we simply continue with that calm. If the mind does not become calm, then we see the truth, that it is not calm. At that very moment, we are already practicing Vipassana. We see the reality. The mind has wandered. The mind is restless. The mind has drifted away. A mental state has arisen. If we see that a state has arisen and we do nothing with it, just see it, that state will reveal another truth. When we do nothing, when we only know it, the state passes away. It shows us non-self. Restlessness is not me being restless. Wandering is not me wandering. It is just restlessness. It is just wandering. The moment it is seen, it disappears. Why does it disappear? Because when there is wandering, the mind is unwholesome. But when wandering is known, there is mindfulness. That moment is wholesome. Wholesome and unwholesome states cannot exist at the same time. So we don't need to do anything at all. The unwholesome state has already ceased, and then the mind learns another truth. It really does cease by itself.
This video is inspired by Venerable Krit Nimalo, Prasarn Suktama Garden in Thailand. Meditation is not about forcing the mind into silence, but about understanding its true nature. The Buddhist path trains the mind through both calm and insight, guided by one's natural temperament. For those who can develop calm easily, the path begins with calm meditation. For thinker minds, the path should begin by observing how the mind is working. Simply knowing mental states as they arise and pass away without judgment or control. When practice aligns with our nature, calm and wisdom develop naturally, leading us closer to freedom from suffering. We hope this talk can be a gentle starting point, an invitation to reflect on your own way of training the mind, so that your practice may align more naturally with your temperament. Thanks for watching the Let Go Place, your gentle pause from the chaos. More Dhamma from respectful Thai monks will come. Please like and subscribe our channel. Drop a comment on how you feel or what you'd like to know more. See you next time, unless enlightenment gets you first.